Oh boy. Another video? Yes. Another video in my stinky Astros shirt. They're the best, by the way. And of course, now that I've moved across the planet, they're probably going to win the World Series, so I can't go to any games in person, which sucks, but that's a different story. All right. Next question on my list actually comes from another teacher. How do I move abroad, or how do I get a job teaching abroad? How could I do that maybe when I graduate? I would say this, first of all, if you are a burned out teacher, and that's kind of a negative connotation. I don't like that word, but like if you're a teacher, if you're a career educator with some experience and you're exhausted or you're in this sort of existential moment like I was, this is for you. If you are a beginning teacher who's unsure and do I leave the profession and is this really for me, this is for you. If you're a student, if you're a recent high school graduate, a recent college graduate, this is for you. If you are a retiree, whether you are a retired teacher or not, I would say that this is for you because this is an option. How do I move abroad? How do I teach abroad? Those are two different questions, two different videos perhaps. But I'll say this, I'll try to be succinct as I continue to lose my mind while I'm exhausted and jet lagged and choosing to make all these answer videos because I got things to do and I need to record them. If you want to move abroad, and I'll do a separate video, of course. Now I'm creating more work for myself. I'll do a video on how not to move abroad because I did do this once and it failed spectacularly. I've already been here in Asia longer than I was in South America, but I was in a very different place personally, professionally, spiritually, politically, and most importantly, economically. I was in a different position. So let's talk about that. If you're going to move abroad, economics, money would be number one. Your finances. Take inventory. Is this realistic? Do you have a manageable amount of debt? Do you have a unreasonable amount of debt? Right? These sort of basic inventory questions. If you do have debt, and chances are if you have a degree from the United States and you're not you're not from a wealthy family, you probably have student loan debt. And if you have a postgraduate degree, then you absolutely have student loan debt, right? So number one, finances. If you're going to move abroad, inventory your finances. Because if you can't manage your finances or you don't have a little bit of savings to travel on, then there's no point of even watching the rest of this video. You can you can stop the video and throw your laptop out the window because you don't need to move abroad. You need to earn more money and save more money. So chances are, unless you again have you've worked your ass off and you've saved a bunch of money, and I'm talking about thousands of dollars, it's probably not for you. I can say this, if you choose to go to, besides finances, the next thing would be research, knowing as much as you can about the place that you're going to visit. So to my point that I was just trying to make a moment ago, if you know that there's a place that's financially viable for you to move to, and I can say at least personally, Vietnam and Cambodia are two places with a relatively low cost of living, Vietnam even more so than Cambodia. Cambodia is more developing, and a symptom of that is it's a little bit more expensive to live, and they use the US dollar as their currency. But finding a place with a super low cost of living and having a reasonable amount of savings, even if it's just a few $1,000s, you can live comfortably on like, I'd say between $1,000 and $2,000 a month, for sure. You could live comfortably in a place like Vietnam or Cambodia, right? And chances are maybe you're living comfortably on that in the U.S., but it's that's beside the point, right? So I'd say finances and doing the research and knowing as much as you can about the place where you're going. Other than that, right, know yourself, right? Self-awareness is a strength. Self-awareness first, and then you hustle. That's a good lesson for everyone. Finances, doing research, knowing as much as you can about the place where you're going, and then ultimately taking inventory of your personal life and what I call anchors, right? Are you anchored? Do you have children? Do you have pets? Do you own a home? Do you own a car? Again, the financial piece is a part of that. If you have if your debt's not manageable, right? All these things factor into moving abroad, and that's about it. I don't want to speak too much more to that. I can say at least my own journey, it was about a year in advance that I planned this thing. I happen to have the professional experience and certifications that you need to teach abroad. If you are going to teach abroad, you need to be a native English speaker. You need to have at least a bachelor's degree from a college or university, and you need some sort of certification, probably a TEFL certificate, teaching English as a foreign language. You can also get the CELTA or the CELTA. I don't know how to pronounce it because I don't have one. But it's something that, for instance, the British curriculum it has to do with that. If you were to work at like a British international school, they would want you to have the CELTA or the Delta, a TOEFL, TOEFL, the IELTS, which is an international English language test that students take in non-native speaking countries. If you were an IELTS expert, if you have experience with the Australian or British curriculums, all of those things are helpful. But straight up, if you're not a teacher, being a native speaker, having a bachelor's degree from the U.S., and then, or anywhere really, I guess. If you're a native speaker, you of course could be from the UK, from Australia, from New Zealand, from the U.S., obviously, like me. Having that degree goes a long way. Being a native speaker goes a long way, and of course having some sort of supplementary certificate. And you can get a TEFL certificate online, and it doesn't take too long, and it doesn't cost too much. But those three things really are what you need to teach abroad. And if you're a recent graduate, like I said, if you're a retiree, even if you don't have any teaching experience, if you have those three things, like, you are set. And then you locate a place, right? You do that research and find an ESL hotspot, and chances are it's Latin America, it's Eastern Europe, it's the Middle East, or it's somewhere in the massive continent of Asia. You find a place, and right, you got finances, you've done your research, you're equipped, and then you just have to have the, you got to make the leap of faith. You got to get out of the comfort zone. You got to buy the ticket and take the ride, baby. And when you're there, stick your toes in the water first, right? My old friend Tony Stark says that sometimes you got to run before you walk. Not a good idea necessarily if you move across the planet. Give yourself some time, like I've talked about in previous videos. I came over for a couple months and spent multiple times. I was in Saigon 3 different occasions before it was like, you know what, I'm going to do this, and I think this is the place for me. Spending a time wherever it is that you want to go. All of this stuff, people, informs this notion of moving abroad, and specifically then teaching abroad. And if you don't want to teach face-to-face, you live in a world as a native speaker with a college degree and a supplementary certification of online teaching. There's a movement at the moment, mostly Chinese corporations, Chinese companies, Chinese American companies, launching online. Online education is the future, and there are over 100 companies that will pay you money to interact with students online. Typically it's either one-on-one with a Chinese student, usually younger, like primary school age student, one-on-one tutoring, one-on-one instruction, oftentimes small classroom instruction. You're going to have fewer hours. There's one company, to remain nameless, where you only have to commit to maybe 3 hours a day. A lot of teachers in the U.S. are doing this part-time after work. 3 hours a day, which can generate about $2,000 U.S. extra a month. And like I said, if you've been paying attention, $2,000 a month in Vietnam, you're set. And you don't have to lesson plan. The curriculum's provided for you. You don't have to do parent-teacher conferences. You could do it from your laptop. And if you have a working laptop, you're a native speaker, you're vetted, you're interviewed, you go through the process, you're hired. You could theoretically, and there are hundreds of people that are doing it, you can travel around the world while you work. If you're a traveler and you know how to budget, you could totally be an English teacher from your laptop 3 hours a day, every day. And I can at least tell you, there's one gentleman that I've read his blog, for whatever that's worth, and he's totally an exception to the rule. But he's a full-time online English teacher, and his hours are insane. I wouldn't recommend this, obviously. I would never do this in a million years. But he teaches 10 hours during the week, and then 12 to 13 hours on Saturdays and Sundays. So he's doing a crazy amount of hours, right? He's doing like 100 hours a week. But he's making $75,000 US a year. He made 75 grand last year just working from his laptop. You know, teaching. You could teach in your jammies. Yeah, I don't think you can do that. There's certain professional requirements. But you get what I'm saying. It can be done. So if you're not getting hired face to face as a teacher and you're abroad and you just want to travel, you just want I have some savings. I've done my research. I think I want to try teaching English abroad. I really just want to travel and see the world. Then online teaching might be something that you could consider or do. And I know if nothing pans out for me, as far as face-to-face schools, which I'm counting on that happening, because I'm a little bit older, and I want to do the one-on-one thing still. I want to have students in a classroom. I do enjoy that. I do love. I love my students, no matter where they've been or who they are. But online teaching is totally something you can fall back on, right? So I've gone way over my 10-minute rule, my 10-minute limit. But that's a good question. So I hope I answered that. Thank you for inquiring. How to move abroad, how to teach abroad. It can be done. If you're a college student and you don't know what the hell you want to do, this is something that you could maybe, figure out who you are, man or woman. Figure it out. Give yourself some time. Start saving a little bit. Maybe grind during that summer after college. Save up a couple thou. Save up a couple grand. No one says that. Sorry, I'm jet lagged. Save up a couple grand and go see the world and take a job either in person or online teaching English and live your life, baby. All right, next question. Peace.